Good morning, good morning. Today, what are you grateful for this morning? I am grateful for a very nice cup of tea. So, how is everybody? Let's see, hopefully this is working. Is it live? Did I go live? Hold on, let's try this again. Pardon me. Okay. Oh, now it worked. All right, cool. Okay, good morning, everyone. So today we are going to go through and talk about something very interesting. Sometimes these things. Hey, Pedro. Hey, Kevin. Hey, everybody. All right. So today we are going to talk about your third primary right. All right. We've talked about the last few. Hey, Marco. We've talked about, in the last ones, we've talked about the first two primary rights. And today we're going to talk about the third primary right and why it becomes the blueprint for all relationships, all kinds of relationships, all kinds of exchanges. Doesn't matter if they're business relationships or personal relationships or friendships, right? This is the blueprint for all of these relationships. So it's really, really important. Okay? Hey, Gabriele. Okay, so let's get started. So the first principle, right? The first primary right is your property right in your own body, right? It's the right of sovereignty over your own body. You as a conscious being, right? I don't care if you call yourself a spirit, a soul, consciousness, whatever you want to say. You have a property right in your own body. This is the first and primary right. The second right is that if you own your body, right, then you own everything your body creates. So this is the right of ownership over everything you create. Your ideas, your inventions, your service that you provide, okay? The third primary right is the right to make a deal, the right of exchange. This is the deal right. I call it the deal right. The reason I call it deal is actually kind of funny because I wanted to make it easy for people to remember because it has A, B, C, D, E, right? So I, as an aware being, have a property right in my body and over my creations, and then D is the deal, and E, the final layer, is the effect. Hey Boo, hi Brianna, hey Gren, hey everybody. Okay, so what is your right of the deal? What is this right? It's the right of contract. The right to say, if I own something, okay, I get to exchange it for something else that I want. Because if I own something, I get to do something with it, right? I have the right to do something with it. So what does that mean? If I paint a painting, okay, and I create a beautiful painting, then it's my painting. I get to sell it to somebody and get money so I can go do something else with that. You see? Hey, JP. Hey, Martin. So this is a huge, huge right. It's the right to make an agreement, the right to contract. This is actually one of the foundational rights the founding fathers of the Constitution, right? They put this in as that Congress that the government can't limit your ability to contract. They can't limit your right to contract. Okay, so they did it. They put it in there in kind of a negative way instead of saying positively you have this right. But this is incredibly, incredibly important, right? Because it goes to the heart of everything that we consider ownership and property. So, but it actually goes to something much deeper, and this is what I discovered. Hey, Miguel. So when we understand that if I own something, I get to exchange it, okay? Now, there's going to be an issue coming in this. How do I know that this exchange is not violating somebody, right? So that's where this comes in. Now, remember, I'm telling you, this is for relationships too. And I'm going to show you how it applies in relationships as well. And that was kind of, for me, the big revelation. When I finally realized and figured out, I was like, oh my God, these things that we think of as, just stuff for contracts or agreements, these actually apply. These are the blueprint for creating good, healthy relationships. So basically, when you understand what are the principles of this right of contract, right? So remember, each thing has two sides. I have a right, and then I have the responsibility, okay? So if I have a right of ownership in my body, I'm also responsible for my thoughts, actions, emotions, right? If I have a right of ownership in my creations, I'm also responsible for if those creations do something and harm somebody, right? And the next layer is the deal. I have a right to make an exchange, to make agreements, to make deals, to contract. I have that right. Incredibly, incredibly important right. But I also have a responsibility. Now, what's the responsibility side? What's the responsibility side of the deal? That is that I have to make sure that when I do an exchange, I incorporate 5 elements. 5 elements have to be incorporated for this to be a good deal or a good exchange. Really, really important for you to understand this because this concept of exchange, deal, valid agreements, contracts, it is the foundation for our whole society. You walk out your door every single day and you engage in contracts without even walking out of your door. Just picking up your phone, you're engaging in a contract. Just living in your apartment, you're engaging in a contract. You're engaging in it constantly, all the time. You don't even know it. And most people have no clue about the 5 fundamental elements of a contract. Hey Mike, how's it going? Hey Miguel. So, the 5 elements of the contract are that, but this is not just the contract, this is for everything, okay? So how do I make sure that my deal is not going to be violating somebody else's property rights? I have to make sure that both parties, right, we have to have a mutual understanding about what we are agreeing on, right? So if I am agreeing on selling somebody my mug and you think I'm agreeing on selling you my iPhone, that's going to be very different. Right? We do not have the same understanding of what that agreement is. If I think I'm accepting your invitation to go to dinner to give you a chance to get to know me and to get to know each other and see if we like each other, and you think, well, if I invite her to dinner, then she's going to give me sex, right? Then totally different understanding of that agreement of what we're doing. See? Hey, Lexar, good to see you. Mike says we contract to be controlled by the evil government. No, but did we enter into that contract? This is the question. Did we willingly enter into the contract? So we're talking about relationships and deals. This is the 3rd primary right, okay? So what does it mean? In order to make sure, so although I have the right to get into a deal, I have the right to make an exchange of something I own for something else I want. I also have to make sure that this right, I'm responsible to make sure that this right doesn't violate somebody else. And they are likewise responsible, okay? This is a dual responsibility, or as many parties are in this relationship. So I have to make sure that we both have the same idea and understanding of what we are exchanging, okay? Are we talking about exchanging this mug for money? Or are we talking about exchanging my iPhone or a book or a camera, right? So we all have to have the same idea about what the deal is, how much that's going to be, right? The general terms, when I'm going to turn it over, okay? Now, the next part is that there has to be an offer. So I have to offer it and you have to accept it, okay? If I say, I'm going to sell you this mug for $200 and you're like, I don't think it's worth that. I don't want to accept that, right? And then you can't go and later and be like, well, you owe me $200. I was like, but I didn't accept your offer. I didn't agree to pay $200 for that crappy mug. Okay? That's why you have to have both. There has to be offer, and then you have to accept it. Hey, awesome. Oh, good to see you, my man. Hey, Octavio. You're talking about the fundamentals of the deal. Okay? The third primary right. Okay. So when I exchange that, so those are the first things, right? I have to make you an offer. You have to accept it. Then I have to make sure there's some kind of exchange of value, right? So if I am giving you this mug and you're giving me $5, there's an exchange of value. Are there ways that we can exchange value without giving anything monetarily or even physical, right? Of course. We can exchange favors. We can exchange agreements for favors. Somebody, great to see you too. We can exchange all kinds of things, right? That you have to have an exchange of value for this to be enforceable, or at least the promise to exchange value. Okay, like if I say, all right, we've signed a contract that says you're going to show up and deliver these boxes to my house and I'm going to pay you. Okay, I'm going to pay you $20. That's an exchange. We haven't actually made the exchange yet, but we've promised it and agreed to it for actual consideration, something of value we both want. All right, let's move on to the next one because this is the big one, okay? Well, one more first. The other aspect is, does the person have the mental capacity or ability to understand the impact of this type of exchange, right? This is why we don't allow children to enter into contracts. Hey, Emily. Because if they do, then they do not have enough experience in the world or understanding to really understand what they're agreeing to. You see, this is huge, huge, huge. And this is why. So let's say, for instance, you have like an old grandmother, and her mental, she's starting to forget a lot of stuff. Her mental capacity isn't what it was. And some sleazy salesman shows up at the door, knock, knock, knock. Oh, look at that beautiful painting you have on your wall. Look at that nice gold watch. Can I buy it from you for $5? See, if she agrees to that, then there's a question as, is her mental capacity there to be able to agree to this? Does she really understand what she's doing? Does she understand the value of what she has, right? Is this person taking advantage of her? See, this is what happens all the time. This is why this is so important. Thank you, Luxar. Thank you for the hearts. Okay, so that's the fourth, right? When we're talking about good agreements. The fifth, oh my God, this is the one that gets violated all the time, and this is so important, and it's especially important in relationships. Okay, and when I explain to you what it is, you're gonna start seeing it everywhere in your relationships, and what people do to you and what you do to other people, okay? And it's pressure. Applying undue pressure. What does that mean? It means pressure that shouldn't be there. Applying too much pressure, right? So if someone says, okay, well, if you don't pay me $200, I'm going to post those naked photos of you on Instagram, right? What's that? That's blackmail. So we already know that that's like really, really bad, okay? That's blackmail, that's a crime. And why is it a crime? Because that's a violation, right? They are threatening you. So they're applying negative pressure, threatening you. Does this happen in our families though? Maybe in a different way, right? Does this happen actually in our relationships? Where, we're like, okay, well, if you don't do this to me, if you don't do this for me, then I'm going to make your life miserable in some way, okay? We do that all the time. What about things like guilt? Do we use guilt, right? Have your parents ever used guilt on you to get you to do stuff? Hey, Miguel. Hey, Angel. Yeah, for sure, right? They use guilt on you to get you to do stuff. That is that undue pressure, right? Are they like saying, like, what are they saying? Okay, well, if you don't come home for, if you don't come home for the holidays, then blah, 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 blah. And I did all this great stuff for you and I raised you and, you have to do this for me, right? Or I'm going to be mad at you, or, we're not going to talk to you. Okay. Pressure. Okay. So we do it all the time. It happens all the time. Now that we're aware of it and we realize, oh my God, this is actually like stealing. Why? Why is it stealing? Because if I fully own my time, right? I fully own my body. I own my time. I get to choose what I want to do with it. Then I should do something because I want to do it, not because somebody's trying to force me into it or pressure me into it. And if they are trying to pressure me into it, then they're trying to get me to turn over my time, but they're not giving me anything in exchange that I find valuable, right? So what is that? If somebody is trying to take something from you, but they're not giving you something in exchange, what is that? Stealing, right? It's stealing. Yeah. Hi, Miguel. Exactly. So, man. But we do this in our relationships, all right? So this is why I'm saying that this is when you understand these 5 principles of how you create good deals, then you understand how to also create good relationships. How do we create relationships based on providing value to each other rather than attacking each other and applying pressure and applying demands and trying to force people into doing something that they don't necessarily want to do, right? And sometimes it's just hard for us to see this because the whole model of society that we've grown up in is based in that. It's based in applying pressure to you to force you to do things you don't want to do, instead of acknowledging your free will, your freedom, your sovereignty in your body, and just saying, this is what would be good if you would like, and we might offer incentives for you to do it, but we're not going to force you to do it. See? Hey, Isabella. So, those are the principles. Those are the 5 principles of a deal. So there's your 3 rights so far. We have the right of ownership in our body. We have the right of ownership of our creations. We have the right that if we own something, we get to make a deal with it. We get to exchange it for something else we want. But that right also has responsibility, right? And we are responsible to make sure that that exchange doesn't effectively create theft, doesn't effectively involve one or the other person actually stealing from each other, which is also a violation of our property rights. So that's our fourth primary, I guess, right and responsibility, because in each of these things, there's a right and there's a responsibility. So that is when you start digging into it and you really start understanding those 5 things, right? If I'm in a relationship, do I want to be in a relationship where somebody is always expecting and demanding and saying, oh, I've got a good one. Okay, so maybe you've been married and gotten divorced. I haven't done it yet, but I have a lot of friends who have gotten divorced, pretty much all of them. Hey, pretty Annabella. And what do they discover when they get divorced? Okay, they discover that when they signed their marriage license, they were signing a contract. They were signing an agreement. But all the other pages of that agreement weren't there. Okay? Where were those pages of the agreement? They were sitting in the state statute books. And they only find out what is in that contract that they signed when they go to get divorced, right? Because when they go to get divorced, then the state says, well, if you want to get divorced, then you have to turn over this percentage of property and this and that and the other. And we have all these laws about how you have to divide everything up and your children and all of this sort of stuff. You're like, what the hell? Like, we got married because we loved each other. We didn't think that this was some kind of contract or agreement, right? So that's an example of where you signed a contract, literally, but you didn't know what any of the terms of that contract were. Now, to me, that is fraud. To me, that's fraud. I think that you have to be aware of the terms of the contract that you are signing, okay? But in our society right now, the way our legal system works, the way our government system works, they don't enforce that. So they just say, well, it was on the books and you should have read it, okay? Which I think is totally baloney. Hi, Victoria. So this is our fifth element, okay? Sorry, our 4th element. This is our 4th, totally forgetting. There's 5 elements of the 3rd principle, okay? The 3rd principle is the deal. There are 5 elements you have to understand about that 3rd principle, okay? And that's all we're going to do today, okay? Well, maybe we'll dig back into it a little more tomorrow. We'll see. Otherwise, we'll go on to the 4th circle, right, which is the effect. So I hope that this was helpful. If you really start digging into this more, it's just going to start to blow your mind. Like, I'm just giving you the surface level, but you are going to start to see this everywhere. You're going to start to be like, oh my God, that's why this relationship is so good. And that's why this relationship isn't working, right? You're just going to start to see it everywhere. So I hope you think about it, dig into it, rewatch the video, really try to understand what I'm talking about here, and ask questions. All right? You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye, Aria. Bye, Tia. All right. Have a great day.